Greetings. Let me grab some lip balm and then I'll be right back with you. All right. We're going to get into it. Probably going to have to clean these glasses off too because I'm trying to see y'all's reactions in the chat. But we'll roll with it for now. I'm going to turn this like this and I'm going to shift myself in case anybody needs to come in and out of my room, as my children sometimes do, and they don't always want to be on camera. So I want to be able to see the chat, and I'm going to take my time. So this might be long, but I'm not making any apologies for the length of it because I'm going to say some things that very much need to be said. And I'm going to present some ideas that many of us probably have not considered. Okay? Let me switch this as I can. The glasses are creating too much of a glare. However, I still want to be able to see y'all's comments. So it's a Saturday. This is an errand running day. Ain't nobody glammed up. I mean, I'm still breathtakingly beautiful, but ain't no glam, ain't none of that happening. You getting raw, no chaser, me, right? Straight, no chaser, right? So last night, as I was getting ready to go out, I went out and did some dancing last night just to release, get rid of some tension and some stress. Oftentimes when I'm dressing, I'm analyzing things in my mind. I'm just going over things in my mind and just kind of letting my mind um take a thought and take it out to its lowest common denominator. And so if you watch my YouTube videos, then you know, and I think this was last week or it may have been the week before, I made a video talking about how we never consider our mother's side. And we give a lot of grace to our father's sides, whether he was absent or present. But we do not give grace to our mother's side and we don't consider her side. So I made that video. It's a live video. You can go back and watch it after this one. Please feel free. And as I was analyzing the thoughts that I was expressing in that video, I came up with just a little short phrase that I thought would kind of cover what we can think about, as adults now, how we can view that situation differently and give grace to our mothers who most definitely deserve it. And also give grace to ourselves or ask for grace for ourselves as Black mothers. So that's what I was thinking about. So the phrase that I came up with, and I posted it on my Instagram, and I'm going to go back because I want to read it verbatim. So let me go back. And I posted on my Instagram. You can see it here. If you follow me on Instagram, you already saw it. I am Got to Be Ocean on Instagram. So the post was simply, was your mother mean or was she overwhelmed and unsupported? Who got to be free and fun while she did the work of parenting? That was the question. And whenever you ask something, what I have found about the internet is whenever you ask something about mothers, people will purposely pull out the most monstrous stories of mothers that they have. On the internet, especially Black mothers, mothers in general, but especially Black mothers. So the internet, from my experience, specializes in making mothers look like monsters. They specialize in not giving any human grace, not giving any humanity, but pulling out the most monstrous thoughts and stories that they have. Now, I do not feel like I should have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because y'all know that I don't suffer fools lightly. So, what I am saying right now obviously does not apply to gross examples of abuse or neglect. Obviously, that is not what I'm talking about. Obviously, I do not believe that anyone should be abused, children or adults. I don't believe that people should be abused. That is not what this post is about. However, whenever you say something like that, that is what people begin to talk about. Gross examples of abuse and neglect. That is where people want to go with it, right? And that's not what this conversation is about. This is not that conversation. There is a conversation that needs to be had about gross abuse and neglect. That's not the conversation that I'm having. And I am not qualified to have that conversation because my mother was not grossly abusive or neglectful. So I'm not going to start that conversation because I can't speak on it, right? I don't know anything about it. I can speak on a mother who was mean. I can speak on a mother who didn't always seem to be kind. I can speak on a mother who didn't always seem to be considerate. That's what I can speak on. And so that's what I do speak on. I don't attempt to paint all mothers with a broad brush because that is impossible. Black women are not a monolith, and therefore Black motherhood is not a monolith. But in this conversation, I am not talking about gross abuse or neglect because I do not have experience in that. Anything that I'm talking about on my channel, any class that I am teaching, anything that I'm writing about, I'm talking about what I know and what I have experienced. I always say, I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. So that is what I can speak from. The rest of that, I'm not qualified to speak from. I do not know it, so I don't try to speak on it. So there is no need to find monstrous examples of abuse and neglect and put them in this conversation. This isn't that conversation. Further, if I had put up a post, which would be equally true, my post again was your mother mean or was she overwhelmed and unsupported? Who got to be free and fun while she did the work of parenting? That was my post. And that is true. Equally true, I could have said, was your father absent or was he suffering from the ills of white supremacy? Was your father a deadbeat? Or was he underemployed due to white supremacy? I could have posted a post like that. And if I had made that post, we all know that monstrous examples would not have been pulled out because it's clear that that post is not about those monstrous examples. It's clear that this is a post asking you to look at a parent through an adult lens. It's clear that that's what this post is doing. But the internet, in my experience, loves to pull out examples of monstrous Black women. It does not do this because it wants change. It does not pull out examples of monstrous Black women because it wants change. It does not pull out examples of monstrous Black women because it wants you to heal from any harm that your mother did to you. That's not why it's showing those examples. It's showing those examples because it wants to stay with the idea that Black women are not human. That's why all the monstrous stuff is pulled out. Because I'm saying Black women are human and they were probably overwhelmed. They were probably undersupported. And this bleeds into their motherhood. That's what the post is saying. So instead of agreeing, you're right, Black women are human and they do deserve support and they shouldn't be overwhelmed. The internet has to say, no, Black women are monsters. Black mothers are monsters. So then you get those examples of Black mothers being monsters, right? That's done on purpose. That is not by happenstance. People are not just people don't just happen to be sharing. That's not what's happening. It is a purposeful thing to show you that Black women are monsters, Black mothers in particular. Let me take my water. And then we're going to go on to our next point. I done got overzealous in my water drinking. It's done almost overtook me, y'all. Okay. So the first thing that I want to address, that has to be addressed, and I'm irritated as fuck that this has to be addressed with grown women. This irritates me, right? But I'm going to address it. The most common comment when I said, was your mother overwhelmed and undersupported, was she knew she was overwhelmed and undersupported, and she chose to give birth to me anyway. She chose to get pregnant anyway. She should not have had me if she knew she was overwhelmed and undersupported. That was the most common comment. That is the stupidest shit I have ever heard in my grown life. And I'm about to tell you why. Most of us in this chat are grown-ass Black women. When you are engaging in sexual acts with people, how often have you been engaged in a sexual act with someone and that person, has tried to get you pregnant? How often has that happened? That happens often. That happens often. That you are engaged in a sexual act with someone and they try to get you pregnant. That person tries to do it. You are not the person being irresponsible. The person who you are having sex with irresponsibly tries to get you pregnant. Every Black woman in these comments right now has had that happen to her. So that's the number one reason that is stupid as fuck to say my mother knew that she was overwhelmed and undersupported and she shouldn't have got pregnant, as if she got pregnant by her goddamn self. That is the dumbest shit that adults can say. Now, a child saying that makes sense. Children haven't been engaged in a whole bunch of sexual activity, hopefully none at all, but definitely not a lot. And so they may not know how this works. But grown women, we know how the fuck this shit works. So we sound stupid saying my mother shouldn't have got pregnant. Duh. Really? You think? Yeah, she probably felt that way too. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm not, if you asking me to do a video on something else, you got to let me complete this right here before I even am going to read comments on something new to do a video on. I got to get these thoughts out. Also, I have my glasses off. I got to focus on comments to read comments, right? And yeah, that right there, I can't, it's not easily done. I don't have good eyesight. Never have been wearing glasses since I was 11. Okay. So let's linger. Let us tarry in this for a little bit longer. We got to tarry over here in this. She knew she was overwhelmed and unsupported, so she shouldn't have got pregnant. Let's tarry in that shit a little bit longer. So as a grown Black woman, as we all are, most of us are in the comments, we know good and well that there have been many times that we have been having sex that the other person has tried to get us pregnant, right? We weren't being irresponsible. The other person was being irresponsible. Look in the comments. People are talking about how people will sneakily take the condom off. We know that people are doing this. We hear about it all over the internet. But certainly that could not have happened to your mother because your mother is a monster and she was out here getting pregnant irresponsibly on purpose, right? We know that motherfuckers will tell you when you are too young to know better. You can't get pregnant if we do it in this position. You can't get pregnant on your first time. You can't get pregnant, and you may be too young to know better. We've heard about this all over the internet. We know this happens all the time. But our stupid asses are here saying, but surely that didn't happen to my mother because my mother is an irresponsible monster who got pregnant on purpose, knowing that she didn't have the resources to do so. This is dumb. Then let us think about the cases in which your mother thought that she was in a loving relationship. Let us think about the cases in which your mother was married. Your mother was engaged. Your mother was in a serious relationship years long with a person who appeared to be responsible, with a person who had been responsible, with a person who was treating her well, with a person who she thought loved her deeply. And she got pregnant. Your mother was not thinking, this motherfucker is going to flip the script on me and I'm going to be overwhelmed and not have any support. Why would your mother think that if she'd been in a relationship with the person and had been supported all along? And we all know, as grown-ass black women in the comments, we know that this happens every day. We can list our stories here in the comment of this happening every day. This has happened to many of us. But when somebody says, maybe your mother was overwhelmed and not supported. No, that certainly wasn't what happened to her. She just irresponsibly decided to have a child. That's stupid. And that's a lie. And you are just lying on black women to try to make us look like we don't deserve support. Right? And the black woman that you're lying on is your own mother. Because you want it to look like your mother doesn't deserve support. Unpack that. Unpack that. See why that is a lie that you are telling on Instagram for the whole world to see. Why is that the lie that you're telling? Right? Not looking at the comments. If somebody's saying something crazy, I can't see it. I will get over to them in a second. Right? Why is that a lie that you're choosing to tell? Right? So, number one, somebody was trying to get her pregnant. She wasn't trying to get pregnant. Number two, somebody stealthily removed the condom or made her believe in her naivete that she could not get pregnant in the way that they were having sex. Number three, she was in a committed long-term relationship with someone who had made her believe that he was going to be supportive. And when she had the baby, he was not supportive. Those things happen commonly. We talk about this shit on the internet all day long. And yet when I suggest that's probably what happened to your mother, you want to windmill in my comments and say, that's not what happened to my mother. You a goddamn lie. One of them three things is what happened to your mother. Oh, but let us insert number four. Number four, your mother was an underage girl being groomed by a grown-ass motherfucking man. And when she got pregnant, that grown-ass motherfucking man ran and hid to keep himself from being prosecuted or possibly deleted due to his actions. Right? One of these things is how you came to be here. Right? And that's indisputable. Those are just facts. Okay? So please stop saying she knew that she was overwhelmed and undersupported, and she's the one that decided to bring me into the world. I didn't ask to be here. She didn't ask for you to be here either. Amen, lights. She didn't ask for you to be here either. But when you got here, she did the work of trying to take care of you. She didn't ask either. Right? Anything to keep from blaming the motherfucker who is actually responsible. Anything. We will make up any lie about black women to keep from blaming the community, the family, and the father of the child. We will make up any lie about black women. The community is at fault because the community should teach little girls you can get pregnant anytime you let a penis get inside you. Community should teach little girls that. It doesn't make any difference if you're on your period. It doesn't make any difference if you're standing up. It doesn't make any difference if it's your first time. You can get pregnant. Community should teach little girls that. Community should keep little girls safe from predators. Little black girls. Let's be specific here, right? The community should teach little black girls, just because you're in a committed relationship with a man does not mean that if you have his child, he's going to continue to be committed and supportive and loving. The community should teach little black girls that. So the community is at fault here. The community is to blame, right? If you are out here irresponsibly trying to have sex with people in a way that you know can get them pregnant, you are to blame. If you are the motherfucker who is sneakily trying to ejaculate inside of people who don't want to be pregnant, you are to blame. Not the person who got pregnant. The person who sneakily did the ejaculation, that's the person who's to blame. Right? If your daughter becomes pregnant and you don't give her any other options, and you don't have a relationship with her that allows her to explore other options, and you are not supportive of her in the process of her being pregnant, then you as a family are to blame. So we're not going to blame any of those people when we know that's what's happening, when we have grown up and seen it happening, when we ourselves have experienced it, when our friends have experienced it. We're not going to blame any of those people. Instead, we're going to decide our mothers were monsters. The monster that decided to stay and try to take care of you and try to raise you. That's the monster that your mother was. Come on, church. Amen, lights. Amen, lights. I'm sick of this bullshit. It pisses me the fuck off. And somebody was like, you're projecting. I'm not projecting. Projecting is when you pretend that what you feel is not what you're talking about. I'm not projecting. I'm talking the fuck about what I actually feel. That's not projecting. I'm outright saying how I feel. Projecting would be, I'm feeling this, but I'm going to pretend it's something else. No, this is how I feel. It's not a projection. It's reality. It's how the fuck I'm feeling. Right? Okay. Now let's get on to number 2. My mother was mentally ill. We can never take into consideration that Black women might be mentally ill. This pisses me off too. Even when we get to be an adult and we look at the behavior of our mothers and we realize in today's time, with all of the information that we have, that our mothers were probably mentally ill. Instead of saying, my mother was mentally ill, we say, my mother was a monster. This pisses me off. You know your mother was mentally ill. You know your mother probably should have been on medication. You know your mother should have been institutionalized. You know your mother needed therapy. You know your mother needed a helper in the house, assistance in the house because of the type of mental illness that she had. Instead of saying, yeah, my mother was mentally ill, and giving grace for an illness, we would rather believe that our mothers were monsters. She was a monster. She was just terrible. She was doing all this kind of stuff just because it gave her joy. You really think it gave your Black mother joy to be doing that shit? Again, we are not talking about examples of gross abuse or neglect. Please don't come in my comments windmilling and acting a goddamn fool, because that's not what we're talking about. Right? But when we as grown-ups look back on our mother's behavior and say, my friends that act like that now, they went out and got themselves some medication, and that helped them to stabilize in their lives. And we realized, oh, mama was mentally ill. Instead of saying that, we would rather believe she was a monster. She hated me and she was a monster. That's the line we want to go with. That's what we want to run off with. That's what we want to holler in the comments. I hate that shit. If she was mentally ill, she was mentally ill. That's an illness, y'all. That's a disease. You don't have control over that. And I am 54 years old, and I will tell you that for the majority of my life, I didn't have any idea that a mental illness was something that you could get medication for, was something that through. They were trying to thug through anxiety. They were trying to thug through bipolar disorder. They were trying to thug through clinical depression. They were trying to thug through postpartum depression. They were trying to thug through PTSD. Right? We know, oh, that looks like this, that looks like that. Maybe I need to go give me a little pill. Maybe I need to go do this, man. Our mothers did not know that. They were trying to thug through. Right? So if your mother was mentally ill, your mother was mentally ill. That does not make her a monster. That makes her a human being with an illness that humans get. Right? Yeah. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm tired. I'm tired. Right? It's ridiculous. It's mean. It's crazy. And they're talking about you. You think that when you put these monstrous comments and say horrible things about your mother, that you're talking about somebody else. But they are talking about you. When you make Black women monsters, it means you. They're not going to leave the monster definition on your mother. If you allow people to believe that Black mothers are monsters, that makes you a monster too. And you're going to be treated like one. Right? You cannot hope to end misogynoir or the hatred and harmful treatment of Black women if you will not admit that your mother was hated and harmfully treated. Because the same definitions that you place on her and the same category that you put her in, they're putting you in. So when you say your mother was a monster and that she was terrible and that she was mean and that she was irresponsible, they mean you. They're talking about you. They're not leaving that definition with her. They're talking about you. So be honest about that. Okay, I'm going to read some comments now. Exactly. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. I'm going to get to that. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Most of us, my first husband, I met him, I think I was 17 or 18 as well, Makila. Now, girl, I ain't finna talk about that man versus Bell. It's crazy though. Okay. Okay. So your mother was mentally ill. That's another reality. Okay. Your mother was actually mean. Let's talk about this. We got to talk about this. Because people are in the comments saying, well, she could have been both. She could have actually been mean and actually been overwhelmed and undersupported. Your mother was actually mean. Let's discuss it. What is the definition of mean? And how can you tell the difference between a person who is mean and a person who is overwhelmed and frazzled? What is the definition of mean? When we say, no, my mother actually was mean. To be mean to someone means that you are taking pleasure in being cruel to them. You are taking pleasure in being harmful to them. That's what it means to be mean, right? Being mean is not always about yelling. It's not always about having a short temper. It's not always about having a smart ass answer. It's not being mean means that you take pleasure in being cruel to others. So when you say, myself included, you guys have heard me say my mother was mean. When we say this, what we are saying is my mother took pleasure in being cruel to me and my siblings. That's what it means to be mean. So to be mean is still giving monster. It's still giving monster. You believe that your mother was happy doing cruel things to you or things that you interpreted as cruel. Take some time and unpack that. For some of us, that may be true. Us, I'm including myself in this. But for some of us, it was just that she was frazzled and at the end of her rope. For some of us, it was both. She was cruel. She got a high off of being cruel, and she was frazzled at the end of her rope. Right? But let's be honest about what was happening. Right? Let's be honest about what was happening. Exactly. And that's still mental illness. I agree. And we didn't take getting on my last nerve seriously. We did not. I personally never did. I did not believe that fat meat was greasy. Right? So all of those things, I I want us to unpack. I want us to do the unpacking. Now, do not get me wrong. There were times when I didn't talk to my mama. There were times when I was not in communication with my mother, when my mother was still alive. Right? There were times that the way that my mother acted and reacted was so hurtful to me that I had to cut her off. So if you are at a point in your life when you are not communicating with your mother due to the harm that her actions have caused you, I'm not saying go and start communicating with her. That ain't what this is about. Don't do that. Do not be in places and spaces where people are hurting you. That's not what I am saying at all. What I am saying is, in your mind, when you're analyzing it, dig deep. Make a true analysis. Dig deep and see what was actually happening. That doesn't mean that you have to talk to her if she is not a person who is uplifting for you to talk to. Sometimes I wasn't talking to my mother, right? So I want reality. I want realism across the board. I'm not romanticizing motherhood or the relationship between mother and daughter, but I'm also not going to villainize it. I want reality across the board. Okay? So understand that, right? Yeah, a lot of times our mothers were afraid. A lot of times our mothers were terrified. A lot of times our mothers were being terrorized. Our mothers were terrorized by our fathers sometimes. Our mothers were terrorized by our communities sometimes. Our mothers were terrorized by our grandmothers, their mothers-in-law. Many times our mothers were being terrorized. So a lot of their actions were the actions of someone who is in a hostage state. Many times our mothers were being held hostage, right? By the community standards, by the expectations of their families, right? By all of those supposed tos. This is not news to us. We have all lived this too. We're living it right now, right? We're the same Black woman who the whole world expects to wear their hair a certain way, who the whole world expects to lower our voice, who when you go into work every day, somebody's claiming that you're intimidating to them because you don't want to kiki and ha-ha with the racists in the lunchroom, right? We're the same Black woman. So our mother was having that same experience in times when racism and sexism and harassment in the workplace were allowed. Those things were allowed. It's not that they weren't prosecuted. It is that they were literally allowed. So we don't know unless she told us how our mothers were being sexually harassed in the workplace. We don't know, right? We don't know the niggas that our mothers were being called in the workplace. We have no idea. We have no idea how many people said, bitch, you shouldn't be at this job anyway. We don't know because that was allowed. So was your mother mean, as in she took pleasure in being cruel to you? Or was your mother overwhelmed? Analyze it. I'm still analyzing that my damn self. I'm just saying, take the time to actually analyze it. Being an adult should give you the ability to look at situations with adult eyes. Being an adult should move you out of looking at the situation with the eyes of a 7-year-old. When you were 7, that is how you should have seen it. But now that you're 54, you should see it differently. Right? Hold on, let me plug up the laptop. Anytime I get to talking, it be like I'm about to power down. So hold on. All right, it's plugged up. Okay, this one I forgot to write down, but let us explore this as well. Yeah. In the practice of tough love, true. Let us explore this as well. How many of our mothers were raising children with special needs? and didn't know it and did not know it. When the first time I ever heard, and I was a grown person, I was probably 21 or 22, the first time I ever heard that there was a diagnosis called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. And as soon as I heard that diagnosis existed, I told all my friends, I have that. I have that. As soon as I heard it existed, I didn't even have to read the protocol. Just the name of it. I knew I got that. And I've had that my whole life. Right? So, how many of our mothers were raising children with special needs with no support and no help and no diagnosis? My mother was. My mother was. Right? How many of our mothers were doing that? How many of our mothers were raising multiple children with special needs, with no support, no diagnosis, and no help? My mother was. The child wasn't getting extra support at school. I'm a teacher. When a person has ADHD, they're supposed to get different kinds of concessions in the classroom. For those of us who now know that we probably have that, we weren't getting those concessions. We weren't getting help, right? We were struggling many times in the classroom, right? And that was the weight for our mother to bear. Our mother had to figure that out. Our mother had to say, why don't you understand what the teacher is saying? Are you listening? Are you paying attention? That all fell back on her. How many of our mothers were raising children with special needs with no help and no support and no diagnosis? Help, support, and diagnosis means that the child may be on the medication that they need. It means definitely that the teachers have to take the child's diagnosis into consideration so the school situation is made easier for them. And it also means that you have a supportive community that helps you with that child, because you have outside communities and centers and different things that you can take the child to. How many of our mothers were doing that? Right? I know that mine was. All right? Okay. Now, what I want us to take away from this is that most of the time, your Black mother was not a monster. She was not a horrible, terrible person who set out to give birth to people who would have a hard life. That was not your mother's plan. Most of the time, right? Most of the time, your mother, when she pushed you out of her body or had you cut out, or when she went and adopted you, or when she took you from another relative and decided to raise you, most of the time your mother looked at you and felt the greatest love that she had ever felt. This is what happened most of the time. And she wanted to give you everything that you wanted. Your mother wanted all of your dreams to come true because hers didn't. So when she made this perfect being inside her body, she looked at you and she wanted all of your dreams to come true. But she lived in this world, this same world that we live in. And she had that partner, whoever your daddy or stepdaddy or your mama's boyfriend was. And she came from that family, that same family that you reckon with every day. And she had that job, the same shitty ass jobs that we are all trying to figure out how to leave. And she was dealing with the politics of the time, the same ridiculous, scary politics that keep us terrified every day. That's what your mother was dealing with. But she did not look at you and say, oh, I've created someone that I can harm for the rest of their lives. That's usually not what happens. Okay? Now let's deal with the social implications of being somebody's mother. I was dating a guy one time, and he was one of those horrible Tyrese people. And what I mean by that was he would wash his whole body in the shower, but he would just let the water run down to his feet. He would not take his wash rag and actually wash his feet. And that was the most disgusting thing to me in the entire world. Young, stupid, should have just stopped dating him. But of course I didn't, right? I kept on dating him. I complained about the horrendous feet. I even started calling the feet hooves to try to shame him into washing his feet, and nothing worked. And so what I said, after meeting his mother and after getting to know his family, I said, I know your mother raised you to wash your feet. I'm going to call your mother and tell her that you don't wash your feet. Listen to that. Listen to that. This was a grown man with children, with a good job, successful. And when I realized that he had this hygiene flaw, me, in all of my Black feminism, in all of my advocate for Black women, in all of my Black women are human beings, what did I say? I know your mama raised you to wash your feet. He was raised in a two-parent household. Why didn't I say, I know your daddy raised you to wash your feet? Why didn't I say that? Why was my Black feminist, Black power, Black women are God response, I know your mama raised you to wash your feet? Why did I say that? Because that is the expectation. So we also have to deal with that. We also not going to leave that on the table. When you go out of the house dirty and stinky and in horrible, dirty attire, the whole world says, ooh, where's they mama? You can be grown. This man was grown. 40, in his 40s. Grown. And I'm still saying, ooh, your mama did a horrible job. Or, ooh, I know your mama did. What? How is that the mama? How is that the mama? So we got to reckon with that too. I saw a post where somebody said people, back in y'all's day was whooping kids when they wouldn't potty train. Was whooping kids when they peed on themselves. Yeah, because if we didn't whoop the kids when they peed on themselves, the whole community was ostracizing us. We might get put out of the house we was living in. People might not speak to us in the church. I'm not exaggerating. I'm telling true facts, right? I saw a post where somebody said, say the meanest thing your mama ever said to you. And literally several of the responses were, my mother told me that my breath smelled horrible. Who else is supposed to tell you that? Would you rather your mother say it, or would you rather the children in school say it? Because a lot of it is that too. A lot of it is, my mother told me to wash my ass. My mother hounded me about washing my ass. And that made me feel that I was stinky and that she hated me. A lot of it is that too. Right? Who's supposed to make you wash your ass? Right? My mother made me clean up my room every day, and that's all she cared about, was whether or not my room was clean. Who's supposed to teach you how to clean your room? My mother wouldn't go to sleep if the dishes wasn't washed in the kitchen. If I left one fork, she was going to lose her mind and say I left all them dishes in the sink. Who's supposed to teach you to do that? And the answer is everybody. Everybody's supposed to teach you to do that. Everybody. But who does it fall back on? Everybody's supposed to have taught that man that I was dating that you got to actually reach down and wash your feet with your wash rag. And everybody might have said it. I don't know. His daddy might have told him. His older brothers might have told him. His uncles, his cousins might have told him. But when I thought about it, all I thought about was his mama. When you go off to school and your breath is smelling bad because you're refusing to brush your teeth, people might be saying your breath smells bad, this, that, and the other. But when people wonder why you don't know how to brush your teeth, the person they're thinking about is your mama. So nobody is considering the pressure that your mama is under. She's under pressure. She's under pressure to walk out of the house with people that look like they're well taken care of. That's pressure when people become old enough to decide how they want to care for their own bodies. That's pressure. I was talking to one of my closest sister friends at one point. We started having children around the same age. And she was like, oh my God, it's so hard to be a Black mother, and people are going to shame you if you come out in public and your child's nose is running. Right? If you look around, you can't keep an eye on your child all the time, but sometimes you look around, it's just, mucus all on your child's lip. And nobody's going to say, oh, the baby got a cold, let me get a tissue. Everybody's going to say, look at her with that baby with all that, mucus running out their nose. She ain't no good mother. That's what's going to happen. If your child wants to wear the same shoes every day and the shoe is ugly and hideous and filthy, and you let the child wear it, people are going to say, oh, you always fly, but you got the baby out here in them raggedy shoes. That pressure is going to fall on you. So you are under a tremendous amount of pressure as a Black woman in living in anti-Black societies to make your child look a certain way, to make your child look as though they are well taken care of. And most ideas about well taken care of children fall under the realm, the umbrella of anti-Blackness. So you're fighting against insurmountable odds. You ain't gonna win. You ain't gonna win. But as a mother, you got to fight it anyway, or somebody's going to think that you're not fit, or somebody's going to think that you don't love your children. Somebody's going to think that you're not taking proper care of your children. You remember how mothers used to Vaseline our face down? You remember how they used to tie them coats around us all tight and put all them mittens and hoods and stuff on us? I remember my mother staying up at night polishing shoes. I know y'all young people don't know what that means. But my mother used to polish shoes every night. Look it up. And wash shoestrings every night. So that when we hit them white folks' school, I was the first in my family to go to an integrated school. And when we hit them white folks' school, we had to look pristine. Now, did the white children have to come in there with freshly polished shoes and freshly washed shoestrings? No, ma'am. But my Black ass was in there every day with freshly polished shoes. My mother worked an 8-hour shift, and we lived an hour away from her job and from our schools. And my mother would cook a hot meal every night, complete with bread. And before she went and helped with homework, and before she went to sleep, she was goddamn it polishing shoes and washing shoestrings so them white folks wouldn't think her babies was dirty. But she was mean for telling me, please don't scuff up them shoes. That was mean. As a grown-up, I'm thinking that was mean. As a child, okay, I didn't have the full picture. But my grown ass is going to sit online and talk about how mean she was. She was trying to navigate hell and bring you through it alive. And the conclusion you're going to come to as a grown-up is that she was mean. That's bullshit, and that's stupid. That's dumb. Right? Don't do that. Think, unpack, unravel what was happening. Right? This is my hair. This is my hair texture. It is, y'all have seen it out. It's super thick and it's super big. My mother had 5 daughters and 2 sons. And so the white folk wouldn't look at our hair and think that it was nappy and peasy. And that's what we called it back in the country. My mother would get up at 5:30 every morning. She would comb this hair every day and put it in 2 ponytails, and it would be plaited down so no little pieces could come out. All of this would be greased down. 5 people she had to do that for, and then her own hair. So that them white folks wouldn't think that her kids was nappy and peasy. But she was mean. She was being mean, because that's something else we complain about. It was hurtful when our hair got combed. It was. I'm not saying that it wasn't. But I'm saying we don't take a moment to unpack and see why that was such a big thing and why that was so important and why she was doing it with such high emotion, we don't take a moment and unpack that. We truly believe that this woman got up out of her bed at the crack of dawn and said, "Ooh, I can't wait to hurt these children and comb their hair and make it hurt." We think that's what somebody was thinking? Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. We got to do better. And I would come back home, Stuart, I would lose my mother used to put ribbons in our hair because the ribbon was more respected by white people. Black people wore barrettes. We didn't wear ribbons. And so she would put the ribbon because she felt that that was going to give us more respect for when she had to send us off to those white schools. And she didn't have a choice, mind you. She didn't have a choice. Once the schools integrated, she had to put us in the school that we were zoned for. Charter schools did not exist. So she had to send us to school with these same terrible white people that she had watched do terrible stuff to Black people her whole life. So all these little bitty ways of trying to make us safe was all that she had. So our mother would put ribbons, satin ribbons in our hair every day to match our outfits. And I would lose the ribbon and I would scuff the shoe and the lace at the bottom of the dress. I would tear that up because I was out here running races and beating every boy in the neighborhood. Was the fastest thing in the neighborhood. I was out here climbing trees. I was out here climbing over barbed wire fence. That's what I was doing. So every day when she did all that painstaking work to try to make me respectable in the eyes of white people because she thought that's what was going to keep me safe, I was tearing that shit up. So was she mad at the end of the day? Come on, y'all. Come on. We grown now. I'm not 5 years old. It hurt my feelings as a 5-year-old that my mama was mad at me at the end of the day. But as a grown woman, I can completely see what she was mad about. We're not going to play these games. We're not going to play these games. We're not going to point at Black mothers and say most of them are monsters. That just simply is not true. The grace that we can give everyone else for living under white supremacy, for living under sexism and racism and microaggressions and macroaggressions, we're going to give it to Black mothers too. And people can stay mad at me for demanding that same grace for Black mothers. Stay mad. Whoever's mad, stay motherfucking mad. But I'm going to demand it every opportunity I get. We're not going to sit here and act like everything was lotus blossoms and cowrie shells, and our mother was rolling up out of their bed of satin sheets and luxury and resources and trying to find a reason to hurt us by combing our hair. Trying to find a reason to hurt us by telling us to brush our damn teeth. Trying to find a reason to hurt us by telling us to wash our ass. Come on. We're not doing that. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I'm going to speak against it every chance I get. And if motherfuckers want to be mad, they can be mad. Motherfuckers want to troll, they can troll. But I'm going to say it because it's ridiculous. And it's just misogynoir. That's all it is. It's not nothing different. It's not nothing deep. It's not me trying to invalidate your experience as a child. That's not what's happening. I am honestly saying this is what the fuck was going on. Now, any harm that was actually caused to you by your mother, of course, that should not have happened. Right? Again, I will say, this is not talking about examples of gross abuse and neglect. That's not what this conversation is about. I am not qualified to speak on that, so I do not. I speak on what I know and what I have experienced, and also what I'm trained in. I used to work for CPS, Child Protective Services, so I literally have a certificate in the treatment of children. So that's what I speak on. I don't know about anything else. I was trained to work with children who had been treated in the ways that we're discussing. I wasn't trained to work with heavily abused children. So I'm speaking on what I'm trained in and what I know. Okay? All right. Yeah, I was coming back home dirty and disheveled every day. And my daddy would pick me up from school and he would look me up and down and he would say, "Your mama gonna beat your ass." And she did. And did, you know? It was wild. It was wild. But as an adult, I understand. And even as a young adolescent, I understood. Oh, damn. I see where she was going with it. Right? It didn't take me any sort of huge leaps to figure out what the fuck was happening. I understood what was happening. So at the end of the day, if I say, was your mother mean, or was she just overwhelmed and unsupported? And at the end of the day, if I ask the question, and who got to be fun and free while your mother was doing the work of parenting, I want you to actually unpack that. And one person in the comments had the nerve to suggest that when I said who got to be fun and free, that I was suggesting that children shouldn't have fun and free childhoods. That I was saying that you as a child should not have been fun and free while your mother was overwhelmed and unresourced. I don't believe that's what that person thought. I believe the person came into the conversation to derail the conversation. I don't believe that they read what I wrote and thought that I was saying that children shouldn't have a fun childhood. I don't think that's what they read, that what they interpreted. I think they wanted to derail the conversation and to keep everybody in the mindset that Black mothers are monsters. I really and truly believe that's what was happening. Further, when they first said, but children should be free, I said, oh, I'm not talking about children in this conversation. And no children follow me. And this is not a post for children. This is a post for adults. And in this conversation, I'm talking about adults. I responded immediately. And they dug their feet in and truly tried to make it seem that I was saying that children should not have been living freely and having fun lives while their mother was unsupported. Not what I was saying, not what I believe, and not what I wrote in that post. And it was my post. I was the one who wrote it. But they argued me up and down that that's what I was trying to say, which is how you know that somebody's just trying to derail the conversation. They just want the conversation. They want people to stay with the idea that Black women are not human. So that happened too, right? No, nobody answered the second question. Everybody ignored the second question. Nobody wanted to admit who was out here in the world fun and free and able to just come in on birthdays and able to just come in when you graduate and able to just come in on your prom. Who was doing that? Who was living that fun and free life while your mother was doing the hard work of parenting in this horrible ass society? Nobody wanted to answer that because we cannot place blame on anybody else besides the Black woman. If we put the blame where it actually belongs, then we are admitting that the system needs an overhaul, that our communities need an overhaul, and that Black women are merely reacting to the circumstances that they find themselves in. If we put the blame where it belongs, then we have to stop believing that Black women are monsters. And people don't want you to do that. So nobody answered that second question. Everybody glossed over it. I had that one person going on and on and on, writing paragraphs about how I was trying to say children shouldn't be free. And then I had one person say, I was living fun and free while my mother was parenting. And I said, yeah, you were supposed to be. But other adults should not have been. Right? So let's unpack. Let's ask ourselves the question. Let's re-examine what was going on with our mothers. That doesn't mean that you have to reach out to your mother if she is harmful to you. That is not what I am saying. But let us re-examine it in our minds because, and this is the last point that I'm going to make, because when we believe that our mother was a monster that hated us, it keeps us from loving ourselves. At the end of the day, if you believe and if you allow society and the internet and media to make you believe that your mother was a monster that hated you, it is very difficult for you to love yourself because you don't believe that the first person who encountered you thought that you were worthy of love. So that's why I said they're talking about you. You're thinking that they're pointing the finger at your mother. But when you agree with people who believe that your mother was a monster, you are pointing the finger at yourself. And it's giving you an inability to love yourself. That's what's happening. You are saying, I've said it. If this person didn't want me, if this person couldn't love me, how is anybody else in the world ever going to love me? I've said it, and I have a video about it here. But it never was that the person didn't love me and didn't want me. It's that the person was overwhelmed. It took my father years. Oh my God, I was probably already in my 50s or close to it. Hearing me say, well, you know, mama didn't really like me. For him to sit me down and say, I'm going to try not to get emotional. But he set me down and he said, your mother loved you so much that when it was time for her to go back to work after you were born, she cried. She didn't want to leave you at home. And all my adult life, up to that year, I didn't know that. That's why I'm such an advocate for this. It was never that she didn't love you. It was that she was overwhelmed. You don't want to wait till you're 40 years old, where the asshole who abandoned her and left her there to do it by herself, has to sit you down and say, this is how much this woman actually loved you. This is how much. You don't want to wait. Don't wait. Don't be like me. Let me be the example of how to do better. Look at the overwhelm that your mother was actually experiencing and take it from a mother who has been overwhelmed. When she gave birth to you, she looked at your little face and she wanted to make all of your dreams come true. Anything else that happened was her trying to do that, was her trying to do what society said it meant to make you have a good childhood, was her trying to navigate her circumstances. Don't wait. My mother was dead by the time my daddy said that to me. It was too late. Right? I don't want it to be too late for you. When you believe that your mother was a monster, you are believing that you are fundamentally unlovable. That's what you're believing. And I know it because I did it. And when you believe that you're fundamentally unlovable, you're going to make some fucked up choices in relationships and in life. Stop believing that. That's not what's true. Believe the reality. Put your mother in your shoes. Put your mother in your shoes and walk through what probably happened. The same bullshit that niggas have put in your ear, know that niggas was putting that same bullshit in your mama's ear. The same fucked up experience, relationship experiences you find yourself in, know that your mama was in them same fucked up relationship experiences. And so then give her grace. Even if you still can't speak to her. I'm not saying go and speak to her if she's harmful to you. But give her grace, because when you give her grace, then you know, oh, I was the sweet, precious baby girl. She just couldn't navigate these fucked up ass circumstances. I'm still the sweet, precious baby girl. Do you hear what I'm saying? It frees you. Because as long as you keep her in that monster position, you're not taking yourself out of the unlovable position. I know because I've been there. I know because I've been there. So I am not ever going to stop shouting this from the rooftops. Your black mama was not a monster. She was overwhelmed and she was unsupported. And she was trying her best to navigate this bullshit ass system that we still are trying to navigate. With the horrible way that men act, with the horrors of toxic masculinity, with the horrors of the black community, with the horrors of the racist systems that we live under, with the poverty that our mothers were trying to navigate. There was no running water in the house I was born into. I was born in 1969. There was no running water. So when you think about poverty, think about what your mother was dealing with. This is what our mothers were dealing with. It was not personal. It had nothing to do with you. It had everything to do with life. You were still her precious baby girl. You were still her precious baby. She was giving it the best she had. I guarantee you. I promise you. Take all of those other factors into consideration every time you repeat the story in your mind so that you free yourself from the position of being someone who is unlovable. Because that's where the power is. That's the power they're trying to keep away from you. Don't do that to yourself. Don't go down that road. Let me have gone down it so that you don't have to go down it. You don't have to go down it. I'm telling you what's true. I'm somebody's mama too. So don't go down that road. Don't take yourself down that road. She hated me. She loved doing mean stuff to me. Don't go down that road. Mm-mm. Stay right here in the center. You the sweet baby girl. She gave you her absolute best. All right. People are trying to get in contact with me. It seems like whenever I am trying to do something like this phone goes off. And when I tell you this phone is completely and totally dry most of the time, whenever I get in here, it's pinging, it's dinging. People got something to say. I'm going to go through the comments and then we'll be done. Yep. Yeah. Those comments, those type of comments kept me from asking for the help that I needed with my children too. And people wanted to make me pay. My family and my community wanted to make me pay for having children, right? They felt like that they had to punish me for having children. So their treatment of me was punishment. And I remember my mother saying that people treated her like that. So yeah, you're scared to ask for help. So even people who might support you, you're afraid to ask for support because you're assuming they're going to say no, or at the very least, say something ugly to you about the fact that you've given birth. Yeah, I feel you on that, Moon. Yeah, they were managing the craziness. I agree, Olivia. And I love you back, Adora. I love you back. Yeah, we have been conditioned to give grace to any and everyone, and we physically do the work of giving so much grace all the time. We're doing this all the time, but we do not expect grace for ourselves. And because we don't expect grace for ourselves, we will not extend it to our mothers. Very true. Oh, I haven't seen that podcast. I'm gonna have to look at it. Is it worth me looking at now? This Ayanla podcast? Or is this snippet that you talking about the best part of it? Now, don't have me out here listening to it if the rest of it is raggedy. Exactly. You can't tell a gay man nothing about his mama, baby. He gonna put her up on the highest pedestal. Most obviously, we generalizing most of the time. That's the truth. Yes, they gonna punish you for having kids. And then they gonna cuss you out if you say I'm deciding to remain childless. It's wild. We can't win. They keep moving the goalposts on purpose because what they have to do is keep us in the position of being monsters. Yeah. Yeah. Dad had a blast. Dad was free as a bird, baby. My mom and dad got 7 kids. 7. And when I tell you that nigga was in the streets, baby, at every party, every club, had the latest 98, what they could deuce and a quarter, whatever they call all them cars, had all of that, baby. Living good. Yes. Yes. Yeah. A lot of our mothers were taken advantage of. My mother was a teenager the first time she got pregnant. When she got pregnant with my oldest sister. So I know she was taken advantage of because I know the degree to which we weren't taught about human sexuality and how it worked. And my mother thought that she was raising us progressively. So if the lack of information that she gave me is any indication, then I know my mother had no information at all. because she gave us the smallest information. We were not sure how to navigate any of it, and she thought she was being progressive. So that lets me know she had no information about human sexuality, right? So completely naive, had no idea how any of it worked. The man that she got pregnant by was 4 or 5 years older than her, so not a horrible age gap, but still much more astute in that type of thing, right? I think that if you don't want to have children, you shouldn't have children. I definitely believe that. If you don't want to have children, then don't have children. And I tell my daughters this, and I will tell any woman this. I do not care if you are married. I do not care if you are in a committed relationship. I do not care if your partner caters to your every need. When you make the decision to have a child, it is something that you are doing alone. It is going to be you laying there, pushing that person out of your body, no one else but you. It is going to be you feeding that person with your breast, no one else but you. And for at least the first 7 years of your life, because of their life, because of that bond, you are the only being that that person is going to turn to, right? So if you make the decision to have a child, everybody is a single mother. That even if people are helping you and supporting you, it's your body that's providing what that being needs. So making the decision to have a child is a monumental decision. So I say, if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. That's what I have to say about that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, child. The antics of it, y'all, I don't know if I'm ready. I might look into that, though. That mad woman in the attic. Thank you, Stuart. I saw you mention it before. All right. So that's it, guys. Stop painting your mother as a monster. Your mother was not a monster, right? Think about all of the other factors that were probably at play here, and offer your mother, extend grace to your mother. When you extend grace to your mother, you are healing yourself. You are healing that wound. That part of you that thought that she didn't love you, when you realize, oh, she just didn't have any support, then it lets you know, oh, she did love me. And she loved me a lot. She pushed past that exhaustion at the end of the day to do everything she possibly could for me. That's a whole lot of love. It doesn't look like TV, but it is real, right? It's real. So push past that. Push past it and get to the point of knowing that she loved you, and then becoming committed to overhauling these horrible ass systems that put our mothers in the position that they were in, that caused them to act in those ways. Not talking about gross abuse or neglect, right? But that caused them to act in those ways that we interpreted as meanness and that we interpreted as dislike. All right. Nope. And that's my point, Empress. He don't get no hate at all. He very rarely gets any hate. I have seen people say in posts, yes, he left, but he's so easy to talk to. Yes, he left, but he always understands me. He always listens to me. Where he better? He didn't do shit else. The least he can do is listen to you. And then that is the least. But yeah, ain't nobody got no smoke for them. Ain't nobody got no smoke for them. Only single mothers have smoke for them. But them kids, they ain't got no smoke. They ain't got no smoke. I have posted many things, and my comments are full of praise for absentee daddies. And I'm talking about daddies that was in the house and daddies that wasn't in the house. Comments be full of praise. He was so nice to me. Yeah, because he was another child. He was another burden to your mother. He was somebody else that she was taking care of, just like she was taking care of you. So he had the luxury of being nice, or at least appearing nice. But how nice is a person when they're not actually contributing to parenting to somebody that they made? How nice are they actually? Come on. We refuse to unpack it. Yeah. Yep. All the compassion, because we are allowed to give grace to him because he has a dick. We can give grace to people with dicks. And y'all know I'm not lying. And I done told YouTube they could monetize this, and we see that ain't gonna happen. But yeah, well, we allowed to give grace to them because he got a dick. But you better not be giving no grace to that mother. You better not be looking at her circumstances and trying to say, why would she do that? Don't do that. She was just a monster. She just irresponsibly was out here on purpose getting pregnant for people with people that she knew she couldn't feed and couldn't take care of. She literally laid down and that was her goal. Ignorant. Bullshit. I hate to see it and I hate to hear it, and I'm not going to stand for it. I'm not going to stand for it. I'm going to call it out every time. Even if that's a troll, even if that's somebody just trying to fuck with me and getting an emotional reaction, they going to get it. And will. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, I'm going to go. Thank you guys for your time. I did not expect to get emotional, but I think it was necessary. I really do think it was necessary. So no apologies. And also, there's a beautiful freedom on the other side of believing that. There's a beautiful freedom on the other side of thinking that the person who gave birth to you hated you. Let go of that. She did not hate you, right? There's a freedom and a love of yourself and a deep understanding of exactly who and what you are, and an ability to see how hard she worked to try to give you everything you wanted. You can see it on the other side of believing that your mother hated you and believing that she was a monster, right? I promise you, I guarantee it. I guarantee that's how it's going to feel. All right. Love you. Hold on. The Eve story, I definitely agree that it ties into the Eve story. Yes. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yep. And we did have to become support for my mother as well. Fist pump. All right. You guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon. As always, ecstasy, abundance, and bliss. And all of the gifts of Orshun, to all of those within the sound of my voice who are wishing the same for me and mine. And we wish the lessons of life on those who are ignorant enough to wish us otherwise. Love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Please share. Please continue to comment if you're watching the replay of the live. And I'm going to put some snippets of it up on social media. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm hungry and I'm tired. I'm going to put some snippets up so that this conversation can continue, because I am about the fight of the discontinuation of Black women being portrayed as monsters. I'm about that. And I got time every day for that. All right. Love you guys. Enjoy your afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your comments and for your love. I can feel the love through the screen. Peace.